Hello, good evening. How was your day? I feel like I always say I'm going to make today's class short and simple and straightforward, but I never end up doing that. But I'll try. I'll try. I kind of guessed from your profile picture, but I wasn't sure because your name is the Tiny Chair Talk. Well, it was okay. We thank God. I was having network issues all day and I was really contemplating holding the class because I didn't want a situation where the class will start and then we would have those interruptions. I'm really trying to solve the network issues, but currently they are just giving me a hard time. So, by God's grace, I hope this class is not messed up. Oh, okay, okay, it makes sense. How is the talk going? What's it about? I'm just waiting. Let a couple of people join, or just give it 30 seconds and we can start so that we don't spend too much time waiting. Essay, you haven't told me what the talk you started on YouTube is about. That's nice. Congratulations. I guess the thing with YouTube is, to be consistent and all those things people say. Yeah, you eventually just find what works for you. So I think that's also something that maybe we can probably do on the group. I've really been thinking since I talked about making the group more engaging. I've just been thinking about how to make that work. But probably there'll be a day when everybody just talks about their own things and share their links and people can go see what that's about. I think that would be cool. But I don't just want to put out a half-assed idea, so I'm waiting and when I have something tangible, then I'll share it with you guys. So today we're going to be talking about hair trimming. Um, I think it was because of the questions that we had in our last class when we were talking about detangling that I was like, okay, this is more a simple topic, but it would be good if we just like talk about it. So I was like, okay, today we're going to talk about hair trimming. So today's class is on hair trimming and the slides are back. Yeah. So I hope you guys can see my slides. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about hair trimming today, what it is, why it's important, and how to do it or how it's done. So yeah, not too much, not too much. Trimming is, very simple and straightforward, I would say. But a lot of people run away from it because they're like, if I want to grow my hair, if I want my hair to be longer, isn't it counterintuitive to trim my hair? right? So that's the reason why a lot of people run away from it. And at the end, I have some picture proof from my own personal experience. How I guess maybe I'll talk about that a little bit. How I do trimming, and my experience with it and how it has worked for me so far. So I think that would actually really help to kind of open people's eyes to, if trimming is done properly, it can actually be really helpful, right? So hair trimming is the process of cutting small amounts of length from the ends of the hair to remove split ends, refresh a style, and maintain health without changing the overall shape or length. So a lot of people, like I said, are scared of trimming because they feel like, I'm trying to grow my hair, so why should I be cutting it shorter? And I think also that people are also scared because of like horror stories. So imagine you doing all, actually see your hair grow, right? And then you go to a salon and you want them to trim your hair, and you come back and you can't even recognize your hair anymore because these people have, they've given you something terrible, so I think that happens more often than not, right? There are more stories of, I had a very terrible trim when I went to the salon than, I really love my experience. So I think that's why it's important, for one, for us to know how to do it ourselves, or to just like basically understand it. Because even sometimes when you go to a professional, sometimes they may not do it in the way that you want it to be done. Personally, I feel like hair is very personal to everybody. So it shouldn't, as okay, as a professional you should give your own opinion, like, oh, I think you should cut maybe 2 inches off or 3 inches off. It should ultimately be up to the person how far they're willing to go when it comes to cutting their hair. That's my opinion. But I think some hairstylists um think see it differently, right? And because of that, sometimes they take creative liberty and it ends up just really doing more harm than good. So, like I said, today is going to be a short class. Hopefully, I'll pat myself on the back and make it 30 minutes. But yeah, so I think split ends is what every natural hair person can really relate to because of how our hair is structured. So the curls and kinks and bends in our hair already, right? Already exposes us to, our cuticles being pushed up, and already exposes us to split ends, right? So the more time you spend with your hair exposed, doing your different styles and all the things you will do to your hair, right? The more your ends are going to be rough. They're going to have knots. They're going to have different types of split ends, as we can see in this picture. I think what I'll do is to like zoom it in a little bit so that you guys can see. I hope you guys can see this clearly. Okay. So if you guys can see it clearly, please just let me know in the comments. Just let me know. Should I increase the zoom? Can you guys see? Let me know, guys. Oh, sorry. Okay, so these are the types of split ends, and as far as I'm concerned, right, there is no good type of split end, and split end is split end. See that one, that incomplete one there at the bottom left. That one is from Hellfire. But to be honest, right, there is no split, there is no knots there, that there's no one that is good, because like you see this one now, this tree one, it's going to just cut your hair in several different pieces and have your hair looking jagged. You see this incomplete one, right? This is recipe for disaster, because imagine if another strand of hair, right, goes into that one, and then that strand of hair has a knot, right? Because of the way our hair is, right? When this thing is showing up in our hair, it is much worse than, I feel, in my opinion, it's much worse than with someone who has straight hair because we have coily hair and our hair shrinks. Like that is the nature of our hair to shrink. So imagine you having like all these different types of split ends, right? Having all these different types of knots in your hair, and then you leave your hair to dry. You leave your hair to dry. You so sorry, let me just say this. So you see what I was talking about with our cuticles, and because of the shape of our hair, we're just much more prone to split ends than the person with straighter hair is. So I don't know if you guys can see my arrow, where my arrow is touching here, but on this knot, right, you can see the cuticles, they kind of look raised, right? Where the bends are, the cuticles look raised compared to where the hair is kind of just straight. The reason why they are raised is because there is a bend. So imagine us now that our hair is not straight. Our hair has a bend, has multiple bends on just like one strand of hair. So all those places are like potential places for damage, right? They're potential places for damage. So because of this, because of the things that because of what split ends can do, how they are bad for our hair and all that, right? We really need to prioritize trimming our hair, right? We need to prioritize trimming our hair. But if we're prioritizing it, how are we going to do it? How do we trim our hair in such a way that we're not cutting off more than is necessary? We're doing just the right amount. We're keeping our hair healthy. And another mistake that a lot of us tend to make, I have actually made that mistake, and I'm going to share that experience with you guys so that people probably don't make that same mistake too. Is that um how do you find the balance? How do you not do it too much, do it right, do it often enough? What's what? And then because our hair is coily, you don't really know how your hair looks when it's stretched, right? So where do you draw the line with when you're cutting your hair from the front and from the back, so that it's not like when you now stretch your hair looks uneven, right? Okay. So personally, I have some ideas because I've been natural for a while and that's how I do my hair, but it might be different for everybody. So I just wanted to run through the options that are available, and depending on whether you're someone who likes to wear your hair stretched or you're someone who likes to wear your hair in its natural state, that would also influence how you trim your hair. But in the natural hair community, I don't know that this is all, but these are the ones that I know, right? I don't know that this is all. First things first, we have dusting, and this one is actually, I think, one of the more popular types of trimming because of how our hair is naturally, how it's just prone to split ends, it's prone to knots and all those things. So people do it on a routine basis, which was why last week when I was teaching you guys about detangling, one of the tools that I showed you guys was my shears, right? Very important because of how we know split ends, all those things are. So anytime you're handling your hair, you should just be ready to, you see a split, you see a knot somewhere, just cut it off and have that, move on from that, and make sure that overall you're keeping your hair healthy. So that's what dusting is, right? It's not necessarily saying, oh, I'm cutting off 1 inch of hair, or I'm cutting off 2 inches of hair, or half an inch of hair. It is cutting as you go, right? And I think this works best for us, like I said, because we're more prone to breakage. And the thing about split ends is that they travel up. The thing about split ends and knots is they travel up, they cause more knots, they cause more breakage, right? And they make your hair difficult to comb. Part of the reason why when you're combing your hair, you have to start from the bottom is actually as a result of split ends. Part of the reason why when you're combing your hair and you put the comb in at the end, right, the comb is going to hook on the hair is actually because of split ends, right? So when you're doing it regularly, when you're getting ahead of it, anytime you are trying to moisturize your hair, anytime you are, just doing anything and you're with your hair, you should just be with your shears so that if you see any knot, you feel any knot, you just snip it off. It's not you like taking out like a huge part of your hair, but you're just on top of it regularly, right? That's what dusting is. So blunt cut is, basically cutting it across a straight line, but you're depending, right? You're taking more in compared to the regularity of dusting is, depending on the person, I guess. People do it anywhere from every 2 months to, every 4 months to twice a year or whatnot, right? So when I started out in my natural hair journey, I used to do this, but I over time really saw that dusting was best for me, right? Okay. Now the other one is the stretched cut. I have never done this. I have never done a stretch cut, but it's basically just instead of you cutting your hair in its coily state, right? When it's shrunken and everything, and you can't really tell the extent of where like the real damage or split ends are. It's you stretching your hair, blow drying it, and then just cutting off all the parts thin, all the parts that have knots and splits and everything, and just keeping only like the healthy strands of hair, right? So I think this one is pretty popular, and we see it a lot of times when people go to the salon and they get this kind of haircut, or maybe they do it themselves, right? So like I said, I have never done this, but even when my hair was relaxed, right, I had very uneven hair. So I just don't think a stretch cut would work for me because the front of my hair has always been longer than the back of my hair, but like they don't grow at the same length. Like the front, if I'm not mistaken, right? In fact, no part of my hair grows at the same length. This side of my hair grows slower than this side of my hair. It has always been like that. There was a time when I was always cutting it because I wanted two of them to be at the same length. And that was when I realized that the parts of my hair don't grow at the same rate, right? So the front of my hair grows faster than the back of my hair, and this side of my hair grows faster than this side of my hair. So every time I try to trim them to be at the exact same length, right? I can trim these two sides today, and within the next 2 weeks, this one has grown longer. Like they are not at the same length again. So I just realized, oh, wait, this is just how my hair grows. And cutting it like that, like trying to cut them at equal length all the time, is actually me just cutting my hair unnecessarily. I really don't need to do that. So that's why I also think stretch cut might not work for me, because my hair doesn't grow at equal lengths. They have different lengths at different parts. So if I now stretch the hair, right, and then they're trying to do a straight cut across everywhere, the only advantage that I would have is, oh, okay, to take all the split ends. But I will end up cutting more hair than needs to be cut, because since the is it the back of my hair or the front? I can't remember which part. One of them shall grows faster, so it's uneven, right? I notice it anytime I do like maybe like a blow dry stretch, right? This one will just stand, it will stop here, and this one comes here. So imagine me doing like blow drying my hair, right? And then because the stylist is trying to do a straight cut, they are cutting, and they probably might want to get too high, right? That it just doesn't make any sense. So in my opinion, I don't really think a stretch cut will work for me, but maybe things might change in the future. That one is still up for debate, but that's what a stretch cut is. But if you're someone who has more even growth across all the sides of your hair, you can probably go for that. Like I said, it still has its benefits, right? But between I usually do dusting and blunt cut, right? And then um I think the most I've done with blunt cut is like, I think I've taken about 7 inches off with a blunt cut, and I really loved that experience. I'll explain it for that in a bit. So yeah, we're literally about to get there. So Trimming is important for so many reasons, right? It's one of those hidden things that really helps with length retention. But like I said, people are scared of it. I think knowing it and knowing how to manage it is actually the best way to go when it comes to trimming. But um because of fear, people just, completely avoid it and then end up missing out on all its benefits, right? So it prevents split ends and breakage, right? So, like I said, we're always going to have knots. We're always going to have split ends because of the way our hair is, and it's almost like an epidemic with us, right? So, like I mentioned in our last class, you can't go anytime you see a knot on your hair, anytime you see a tangle, just pull out your hair and just rip it apart. You're doing more harm than good. You're causing multiple splits on multiple places, right? So the more you do a blunt cut, just cut it off, cut off the ends, cut off the split part, cut off the knots, right? The more you're preventing more split ends, right? And the more you're preventing breakage, because anytime you're going to go in there with your comb, you're going to try to style your hair, or someone is going to try to style your hair, those split ends, those knots are going to cause tangles. They're going to cause tangles, they're going to cause breakage. So it's like a never ending cycle. So the more you take out split ends, the more it prevents split ends and the more it prevents breakage. So very, very important. So yeah, like I said, this one is kind of dull. If your hair is not breaking as much, it's definitely you're going to be retaining length. And that's the goal, right? That's what we're all trying to do because we've already established that our hair is always growing. So retaining length is the cocoa, right? Trimming is one of the, especially if you're doing the right kind of trimming for your hair, trimming is one of the best ways to, you know, help or aid. I wouldn't say it's one of the best ways, but it's one of the best maintenance things you should do to aid length retention, right? Okay. Um, it increases manageability. I don't think I see enough people talking about how much trimming increases manageability because, like I said, if you put your comb in your hair and towards the end the comb just hook, it's because of clustered knots, clustered split ends that are in that part of your hair, right? You see, when I did the 7-inch cut that I was saying is the most I've done when cutting my hair, it it was amazing because my wash day went from 3 hours, 4 hours, right, to 1 hour, 30 minutes. Because combing, I didn't take a long time to comb. I didn't take a long time. Maintaining my hair was just easy. It improves manageability. It makes your hair nice. It makes your hairstyle come out nice when you're taking down, which is something that you guys kind of saw last week when I was trying to detangle my hair. You guys noticed that I was not really finding knots. I was looking for knots to show you guys how to take out knots. But when I kept, when I just, because that blonde cut was just because I wanted my ends to be thicker and like just, really looking sexy and thick and healthy and everything. So that was why I went that far up, right? But what, like, these were the effects that I noticed from doing that blonde cut and just taking off everything. It was dramatic, yes, and it wasn't just the knots that I was after. It was really just because I wanted my hair to be like thick from from bottom to top, or top to bottom. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I wanted like thick hair all through. I didn't want to have like, thin ends or anything like that, right? So when I did it, it improved manageability. It reduced the amount of time I spent doing my hair and it made me enjoy doing my hair. Because I promise you, I'm lazy. I don't like doing too much. I just want things to be easy. That is literally why I started saying, my name is Easy. I'm here to make your hair growth journey easy because me, myself, I like simple things. I like easy things. It really helped me there. So, It enhances shine because obviously I think if you guys have ever seen a white person with straight hair when their hair is frizzy, oh, it just doesn't look nice, right? For us it's actually the same thing. It's a little bit harder to notice, right? You really notice when you're combing and all that because our hair is coily, but trust me, it enhances shine, it eliminates frizz, it helps you to achieve your styles, like your styles come out looking nicer. If you're doing a curl set, right, you can be so sure that I didn't think about that, I should have added that picture, but you can be so sure that your hair is going to come out looking popping and shiny. I remember the first hairstyle I did after that dramatic cut, right? My hair was popping. I loved it. It was really, 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 really awesome, right? So let me see if I should increase the okay. I just want to show you guys something with this before. This before and after is probably the kind of growth you would assume people have, maybe trying to grow their hair for a year. I got, I grew almost 5 inches of hair in less than 4 months. This first picture was October. That was when I did the 7 inch trim, right? The second picture is February. So yeah, October, November, December, January, February. 5 months is this